You're listening to ADHD Support Talk Radio. ADHD Support Talk is brought to you by ADDclasses.com. Visit www.addclasses.com for helpful online events and resources today. Well, I want to welcome you back to ADHD Support Talk. I am your co-host, Lynne Edris, and I am a productivity and ADHD coach. So I help overwhelmed professionals take control of their time and their lives so they can fulfill their truest potential and have more time and energy for what matters most to them. And I am a woman with ADHD myself, guys, so I get it. I've been there and I've done that. And I know, and I truly believe that every single one of you can share your own version of success and come out the other side, so to speak. You can learn more about me and what I do at www.coachingadvantages.com. Today, I have my co-host and the founder of ADHD Support Talk with me again, Tara McGillicuddy. And in a moment, we're going to talk about memory, mindfulness, and multitasking, and not necessarily in that order. Welcome back, Tara.
I'm glad to be back. And as Lynn said, my name is Tara McGillicuddy. I'm the founder of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I am also an ADHD productivity coach. I've been involved in the online ADHD community for over 25 years. And I also help people shift their energy to help them lead happier and more productive lives. You can learn more about me and the services I offer by going to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com.
Awesome. Well, we were talking before we started recording about, the 3 M's of ADHD, I'll call it, multitasking, memory, and mindfulness, and how they're sort of interconnected, but also problematic in some ways for many of us. So where do you want to jump in, Tara?
I think one of the big things is a lot of people with ADHD have challenges with memory. And sometimes it's purely memory that they can't retrieve it. But a lot of times it's because that memory never registered as a memory because our mind were someplace else or we were multitasking.
Right.
So what happens is we think we didn't remember when it's not even that we didn't remember, it never registered as a memory because we might have been switching back and forth to tasks. And it's a different solution to a memory issue when it's the fact that the memory didn't register to begin with, when it's just, it's a pure memory issue.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important thing to pay attention to, right? I often use like computers as a metaphor for memory and for a lot of things that have to do, relate to our ADHD brains. But if you're not mindful, if you're not tuned in the moment, if you're not really present when something's happening, it really doesn't get written to the hard drive, so to speak. So the memory or the thing or the incident or what you said or what you were thinking or whatever it is really doesn't get kind of written to that hard drive in terms of your long-term memory. And what happens a lot of times when that happens is there really is no recall. I don't know about you, Tara, but for me, I often joke around about if I don't write it down, I may not remember it. And I swear I could take a lie detector test and pass it because I really have no recall.
Yes.
Right. But that can be really problematic in a lot of different ways. It can be problematic in relationships. It can be problematic in terms of your own functioning, getting done the stuff that you want to get done, all of that. But so much of that kind of memory difficulty really does come back to that mindfulness and being present in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many issues. Like you talk about relationships. Someone might accuse you of lying because they asked you the question or they said it and you looked at them, shook your head, but your mind was elsewhere.
Right.
So that's the thing. There's so many different challenges associated and problems when that memory doesn't register or it's kind of like not pressing save on your computer.
Right.
And with regular type of memory issues, writing it down, getting reminders, that can help you.
Right.
But if it didn't register to begin with, let's, back up. How can we make it more likely that that memory is going to register as a memory? And mindfulness is a step to help improve that.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when I talk about mindfulness, and I think in this case is one of those times, mindfulness practices like meditation and mindfulness and those kinds of things can help you learn to regulate your attention and be more present in the moment. But a lot of times it really is, it's not being focused on what's going on that you want to remember, and that sort of meaning of mindfulness, not being present, not being tuned in, and or being distracted by something else. So we were talking about like the connections with multitasking and memory and mindfulness. And if you are, it is kind of like it is something of a loop, right? So many of us will jump to take care of something when we're doing something else because we're afraid we're going to forget. Right. We know our memory challenges. So I think of the thing, I'm going to do the thing right now, even though I was in the middle of something else. And that is multitasking, right? We know that the human brain can't actually focus on two different things at one time. So anytime you're switching back and forth and you're calling that multitasking, you're actually just task switching, unless one of the things doesn't really require any processing, like folding laundry and, watching TV or something like that. But every time you jump to something else, you are at risk of losing, whatever was in your brain at that moment that you might want to record to the hard drive, so to speak.
It's funny. I was watching something on Netflix, a series a few weeks ago, and I'd watched it years ago. And I'm like, I'm going to rewatch it again. It was probably like 7 or 8 seasons, and I didn't remember any of it. And part of it is we don't watch TV like we used to, because I'm like, what's wrong with me? I used to watch the Brady Bunch and I'd memorize episodes by heart. I still see them today. Part of it is because the episodes are played over and over again on reruns.
Right.
And a lot of times we watch TV now on Netflix, we binge watch like a whole season. We only watch it once. But as I'm watching TV, I'm paying attention to what I'm also doing. I have my iPad open with Candy Crush. I have my iPhone and I'm texting. I'm like, okay, no wonder it didn't register. I don't remember. I mean, part of it is because I was doing other things, or I was half asleep, falling asleep to something.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, okay, there's a reason why I don't remember it. And there's a few reasons. Part of it is because I probably didn't see it enough. And part of it is because I was doing other things. My mind was switching between 15 other things, Candy Crush, text messages. Here I am in my bed.
All the other things.
My Netflix on my television with my iPad in one hand and my iPhone in the other. No wonder. And hey, the text message, Candy Crush, I may not have been at my best either. And my text messages may have not made sense. But I think becoming aware of it. And being that mindfulness, like you said, the mindfulness exercises are great. But mindfulness in this sense is, if you're copying, I don't even know if we write things on a calendar anymore. I think we all have like iPhones. But if we're entering it in to our phone or writing it down, be present, connect with that. If you have a pen in your hand, pay attention to how the pen feels. If you're typing it into your calendar, pay attention to how your phone feels. Or if you're just saving it because it was automatic, be present, like register. It can take practice.
It does.
That's just like a moment, like being a mindfulness moment.
Right.
But it doesn't always work that way. I know sometimes life happens and we're stressed out because we almost got into a car accident, something like that. Those type of things are going to happen from time to time, or depending on your life, even more. But if you can just start by breathing and be present for moments, that will most likely help whatever it is register as a memory.
Absolutely. So one of the things I will do sometimes with clients is like take just a split second and do like a sensory scan of your body. Like, what are you feeling? Right. We work on this mindfulness stuff with all different kinds of things, and not all, it isn't, again, I'm not meditation can help, but I'm actually talking about being present in the moment and being mindful of something. So if I have a client, and I always think of this example because I remember it so clearly, I had a client who kept losing her I can't remember if it was a debit card or a credit card.
Yep.
Like she would be out somewhere, she'd put it down, or she'd swipe it in a machine and she'd set it down, or she'd put it in a pocket, or, whatever. She kept losing it. So we practiced, and this sounds goofy, but, holding that debit or credit card in your hand. What does it feel like when it's in your hand? What does it feel like when it's not in your hand? What does it feel like when you're swiping it, when you're holding it? Feel the ridges, feel the temperature, feel the texture, right? What does it feel like when it's gone? When you practice that kind of, just for a second, mindfulness, then you start to be aware of, what happened to the thing. The thing is not in my hand now. People used to make fun of me back in my last car had a regular old car key. Right now my car has one of those key fob things that doesn't actually have a key that goes in the door, which I actually hate. But it had one key, and I always just carried the one key. No ring, no keychain, no nothing. And everyone would always say, how come you never lose your key? Because if it's on a ring, it feels like something that isn't quite so fragile or tenuous or precious or whatever. But that key by itself, I know what that key feels like when it's in my hand and when it's not. I know what it feels like when it's in my pocket and when it's not. Like I can feel that. I can feel that more than I can when it's just one key on a ring of 10
so you
keys.
Kind of feel naked without it.
Yes. So it sounds like we're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We're like, this is random, but it's very directly related to being present in the moment.
It is. It really is.
So paying attention to what it feels like from a sensory perspective, like what does it feel like in your hands, whatever it is that you're doing? What does your body feel like in this moment? And one of the things I do a lot is when there's something that I'm trying to force myself to be present with or to in the moment, I'm talking to myself because I am a verbal processor and an auditory processor. I'm talking to myself about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And it's almost like, I always laugh if people could see or hear like the chatter that's always going on in my mind, but it's keeping myself tuned in. So repeating the thing over and over and over again, or I will keep, if I'm walking into a room for something, saying the things, over and over and over again to try to keep me present and try to keep me from getting distracted by something else. So being present in the moment is huge.
And using multi-sensory instead of multitasking.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So when it comes to, one of the things I was thinking about when we were talking about this is the relationship piece, the communication piece, right? Most of us don't need to be rude. Most of us don't need to be insensitive. Most of us don't need to tune out the people that we care about, right? It's just a function of how our brains work. It's harder for us to filter out distractions than it is for other people. So if there's somebody that you care about who complains that you don't listen, or tells you said stuff that you don't remember saying, or told you stuff that you don't remember hearing, or whatever it is, that's an important conversation. And it's an important thing to problem solve together. That's one of the things, my husband, I always joke, is like the least ADD person in the world. He's an engineer. He's very naturally organized. He's very logical. He's also very focused. Like when he's focused, when you have Steve's attention. Yeah. You don't always know when you have my attention. Right. After all these years, right. I can nod and smile and make eye contact. I can even answer some questions without even knowing what you're saying, or being present enough to really have it like processed. Yeah. So after years of arguments, and I told you and you weren't listening, and you said you were going to whatever, all of that back and forth, I had to really look at sort of my side of things and his side of things. So one of the things we landed on a long time ago is like, I've got responsibility in it, as in like, if I know that you're talking to me and I'm actually aware enough to know that you're talking to me and you're telling me something I should be listening to, I'm responsible for stopping doing whatever it is that I'm doing and tuning in. But you're also responsible for not interrupting me and expecting me to remember something when you either don't have my full attention or I'm in the middle of something else.
Yes.
Because if you interrupt me and I'm in the middle of something else and I'm focused, I am probably going to agree to whatever you said and maybe respond and never remember that we even had the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I've gotten to the point where I can defend myself nicely and say, if you're telling me this, this actually just happened the other night. We're literally laying in bed and he's like, oh, we need to remember to whatever. And in that case, the we was me. And I said, that's great, but you're telling me this as I'm about to sleep. So it's either going to keep me awake because I'm going to be worried about forgetting it, or I'm not going to remember that we even had this conversation tomorrow. So you've got to either have this conversation again tomorrow or take care of it yourself. And he started laughing and he's like, yeah, sometimes I get nasty and I get grouchy about it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, you accepting your role and accepting your memory for what it is and your difficulty staying tuned in, but also communicating about it. So he knows, like, if I say, yep, got it, whatever, I'm not really tuned in.
Yeah.
I'm making eye contact does not mean that I'm tuned in. So he knows to touch me, like put your hand on my arm
like
or shoulder,
a talking stick or something
Yeah.
on that idea where, like, and paying attention, you and the people in your life, maybe if they don't pay attention, you kind of help them realize that, maybe, right before bed isn't the best time, or for me, first thing in the morning probably isn't the best time. And, people probably have other things that, are better times or not better times. Or maybe it's like, okay, if you really want that, put it in writing, send me a text or send me an email, because I process better seeing things visually.
Yep.
But it's knowing that, okay, first of all, this is an issue. This is why it's an issue. And here's what we can do to improve it. I can advocate for myself. I can have strategies. And like you said, whether it's a romantic relationship, friendship, coworker,
boss,
whatever,
anybody.
Knowing that, because if you didn't remember it, if it didn't register, like I could pass a lie detector test too for things, because someone said to me, I'm like, I didn't do that. Yeah, you did. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, I probably did, but next time,
maybe not. Right.
Like, okay, but my mind was elsewhere, or so that's something to that mindfulness is,
and be honest with yourself and the people around you, right? If you're going to tell me more than one thing that I need to remember and I don't have something to write it down on, forget about it. Don't tell me we need 3 things at the store if I don't have anything to write them down on.
I need 1-step directions. It's funny, I take Pilates and they'll do something new and it'll be like a 3-step thing, and I'm like, it's not that I can't do it physically, my mind's just,
I'm still on step 1, right?
It's like, okay, but the 3rd time I remember. But I think that's something to be aware of. And you can say to someone, okay, write it down or give me 1 step at a time.
Hang on, let me grab something to write it down with. Right? I mean, it's we're both wasting our breath if you're expecting me to memorize this or remember this or have it written to the hard drive when I know that it's not reliable. And I think that acceptance piece is a really important part of it.
Being aware of it and acceptance, and and like you said, part of it's your own responsibility, but part of it is the partner's business partner or whatever, the other person or the other person.
Absolutely. And if it's a boss, right, this is how I work best. I need to write things down, or I need to put this in my phone, or I need to take notes during this meeting, or I need you being aware of what you need and being okay with advocating for that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If you have someone who is hearing impaired, you're not going to say listen harder. Or if someone is visually impaired, you're not going to say look harder or try harder to see it, right? You're going to help them do it in a way that works for them. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. We need to accommodate the things that we're struggling with. So any last thoughts on this? Anything you'd want to leave our listeners with?
I just think, I probably said it multiple times, but the mindfulness, there's a lot of big words around mindfulness. This whole class is on mindfulness, books. But breathing, being present for moments while you're connecting to your project, task, question, in the multisensory, like being present in your body, feeling it, hearing it, seeing it, smelling it, whatever else it is, for moments
Yes.
can make a world of difference when it comes to memory issues or registering
Absolutely.
the things as memories to begin with.
Absolutely. And pay attention when there is a breakdown in your memory, or you realize you've forgotten something, or somebody points out that you've forgotten something. Don't just feel bad about it. Don't just beat yourself up about it. Pay attention to where the breakdown happened. I always say, go look at it from a curiosity perspective. Look at it from an analytical perspective. What was going on? What happened? What could have happened differently to make this not be a memory failure, right?
Yeah.
Is it that I wasn't tuned in the moment? Is it that I was trying to do too many things at once? Is it that I felt like I needed to jump into that thing because I don't have like the right systems in place to capture a to-do when it comes in, and, you know, or whatever that is? Like, pay attention to those little pieces and analyze the situation so that you can come up with strategies to help you better next time. But
Yes.
beating yourself up, feeling bad about it
No.
is the last thing that's going to help you.
No, you're right. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
From
Awareness
whatever the
is power.
commercial or TV show was from the 80s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tell our listeners again how they can learn more about you, Tara.
You can learn more about me by going to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com. I offer free co-working action sessions on a regular basis, and you can learn about those and the other services I offer by going to taramcgillicuddy.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Tara. Thank you all for listening. As always, we appreciate your attention. If you want to connect with us, please feel free to join us in the ADHD Support Talk community on Facebook. We're always open to suggestions for topics, questions you might have about ADHD, productivity, whatever, and guests you'd like us to have on. So please join us in the Facebook group and let us know how we can best support you. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.